Hey everyone, Tankenstein here, and welcome to Half-spaded. In this episode, I'll be showcasing the T32E1. This is a currently rank 5 battle rating 7.7 heavy tank in the American Ground Forces tech tree, and is currently an optionally unlocked vehicle that sits in the same folder as the standard T32, which makes this perfect for Half-spaded. Now with that said, you might be wondering to yourself, what's the big difference between the E1 and the standard T32? And quite frankly, there are not many differences, but the differences that there are lie in the armor. And they are just big enough where it seems that Gaijin feels that the BR should be increased again in the E1. Now with that said, the E1 features rolled homogeneous armor on both the upper and lower glacis plates, whereas the standard T32 features cast homogeneous armor. Now despite the fact that these are at the same exact thickness levels, being 127mm on the upper and 95.25 on the lower, they are at slightly steeper construction slopes, which means that they have anywhere between around 10 and 30mm greater effective armor compared to, again, the standard T32. Additionally, the E1 variant lacks the hull MG port, which is a huge weak spot on the T32. In all, that's pretty much it. There are no differences in ammunition, engine, turret traverse, or anything major. So in theory, the T32E1 features slightly better survivability from the front, but when you think about heat FS and the like, maybe not. We'll have to test that out in this video. But with that being said, what I like to do is take these vehicles through at least 3 matches, with the first match being fully stocked, second match being about halfway spaded, and the third match being fully spaded, so you could see whether or not it's even worth purchasing the T32E1 in the first place, and maybe even grinding it out so it's fully spaded. But with that said, if you don't mind, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing. I greatly appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So here we are fully stock in the T32E1. I might just refer to it as the E1 at points, so if I do, don't hate me. Now with that being said, this vehicle, right off the bat, it's not terribly immobile. I mean, like, it's actually got pretty decent mobility, even for the fact that it's fully stock. It's not bad. My main concern with this, though, isn't so much it's like, oh, mobility, and again, even off-road, this thing is actually handling pretty decently. It's more so the fact that its top speed is only 32 kilometers per hour, which kind of sucks, to be quite honest with you. That really, I think, is going to be the main limiting factor on this vehicle, especially once you get those other mobility upgrades, engine, filters, transmission rather. That can actually lead to this thing kind of being crappy. Oh, that was ugly on my part. Now this thing only has... This thing has a 15-second reload, which really sucks. But not too big of a deal. We can make up for that right here. Very nice. We survived. Hopefully we're not scouted, but I'd imagine we were. Now, I do have an expert crew, so bear that in mind. The turret traverse and the reload are slightly better than where they're stock, so you want to remember that. It looks like a Tiger too. Yes, it is. And we have ourselves Commander and Gunner hit. You want to try to take out those tracks when you can. Now, unfortunately, I only have the T43 shot. This is a solid shot AP shell. The T41 has slightly better armor pen, plus 100-ish grams of explosive filler equivalent. Oh! That is not good. Now, if I had the APCR, this would be a much better and more reasonable thing here, but unfortunately we do not. I'm going to go try to take out that barrel. Okay, we took it out. Very nice. Now try to immobilize them. Even though it is the mouse, you do still want to immobilize them. And go from there. Now, typically this is not where you're going to want to have to go with this vehicle. Like, you don't want to... you know, have to immobilize someone or destroy their cannon. You just want to, like, kill them in one shot. But you also have to remember, this is not a huge gun. This is a well-armored vehicle. It's a heavy tank, but it's only got a 90mm cannon. And with that, a 15-second reload. That's pretty damn wild. Now, it's got an okay enough... ooh, what is going on here? It's got an okay... I let that guy die. It's got an okay amount of armor pen and muzzle velocity, but realistically speaking, I mean, this is a really, really ridiculously long reload for this size of a gun. You know, I mean, the Object 120 or the Object whatever there, any of the IS-2 variants basically with that 122mm cannon has a much better, a much more proportionate reload for the size of the gun. Now, this is one thing I am noticing. When it comes to mobility, just kind of moving slowly, taking like slow turns at, you know, off-road, this thing really does suffer. I mean, pretty much any vehicle will, but this thing is very slow from the get, right? Like from the get-go. It's not going to move all too fast from zero. So don't expect this thing to have great mobility once you're just starting, especially if you're making some, like, some slow speed turns. You're not going to be able to gain speed all too quickly. But I mean, overall, the turret traverse for what this is, again, bear in mind, I do have an expert crew, but the turret traverse isn't so terrible for what this thing is. Again, it's just under 20 degrees per second. Without an expert crew, I think I was like 17.6, if I'm not mistaken, so it's not bad. And again, it's going to be pretty much the same as the standard T32, so if you're used to that, it's going to be the same. Okay, we have ourselves a King Tiger. I'm going to shoot right through the back of that turret if I can help it. Got the kill. Now, that's one thing that is really crappy about this vehicle, at least when it's fully stocked, is that it has that standard AP, which really isn't good. It's not very good, unfortunately. This guy really doesn't know I'm here. You know, it does have the HMG on top, which is cool, but the standard AP on this is very much lackluster. You're not going to necessarily get a ton of one-shot kills unless you're fighting like a cramped vehicle or something of that nature. And when you have a vehicle like the, what was that, the Rattel or whatever the hell that is, it's not going to be all too fantastic from the front, and you have to, ooh, good. You have to hope that you can get yourself a kill, a lucky kill in this instance, because that's what that was. Also, the HMG, I think I was actually just talking about that. The HMG on this thing is very nice for destroying a vehicle like that. Is that a Panther F? Yes, it is. But actually, I mean, right off the bat here, he's gonna probably try to shoot my. There we go. So not too bad. 5 kills, 2 assists. What I can tell you is, right off the bat, I'm actually really impressed by this vehicle. Am I, like, blown away by this vehicle? Not really, but I can tell, for the most part, where it has better armor. Actually, I was just playing this, again, fully stocked. This is a fully stocked match. And my previous match I tried to record, I was getting shot where people thought that my weak spot was in the front of the vehicle, where the MG port is on the standard T32, and it wasn't really doing anything to me. It, like, barely damaged the crew member on the inside, whereas with the standard T32, it could have resulted in a crew death or a complete loss of my tank. So I'm noticing survivability is a touch better on this vehicle, but we'll have to wait and see. Otherwise, the T43 shot, not very good. The solid shot AP, so I feel like the biggest upgrade that we're going to get is the T41, which is the, I believe it's APCBC with explosive filler and slightly better armor pen. So that said, let's get into the halfway spaded match, see what this thing can do. But thus far, I'm somewhat impressed, but not insanely, if that makes any level of sense. Sorry about that, some recording hiccups. Just wanted to let you guys know I am halfway spaded with the T32E1, and I just got a nuke. This is my 4th nuke ever. And I really actually, I'm just before halfway spaded. Thus why I didn't get into this and say, oh, well, this is the halfway spaded match. But as you could probably see here, 7 kills, 2 assists, 1 base cap. And really, the majority of the reason why I did this well in the first place, I'm going to die here. That's fine. I have myself a nuke. Okay, I guess I'm not going to die. The majority of the reason why I did this well, you know, I'll go give him the kill because I have the nuke. It's because I have been deflecting shells all over the place. It is absolutely ridiculous how many shells I've been deflecting in this down tier. I mean, I cannot believe it. How well I've done with this vehicle in a down tier. It's just absolutely wild. But that's the thing. Down tiers are fairly rare with this. But 8 kills, 2 assists, 2 base cap, or 1 base cap rather. And you'll see in just a second, I'll give you a really quick halfway spaded match, so it's an actual proper one. I really wish I had recorded this, but unfortunately I did not. And again, the reason being is because I'm technically one mod away from halfway spaded. So as said, let's go ahead and drop this nuke. Not that I'm going to be able to drop the nuke anyways, but as you see, I still got nuke regardless. Let's actually get into halfway spaded now. So whatever happens in this match happens because, as you saw, this vehicle can very clearly, not even fully spaded, earn itself a nuke, and I ended up just self-destructing in order to get into that B-29. Now that said, with this vehicle halfway spaded, I can tell you a few truths. The T41 is thus far, and what I'm assuming will be, the biggest upgrade for this vehicle, by far. So this offers a little bit more armor pen, not much, but more so it offers substantially better post-pen damage with nearly 140 milligrams of explosive, or grams rather, of explosive filler equivalent, which is great. Mobility upgrades don't seem to matter all too much. So this vehicle, as you can see, I'm just going at 35 kilometers per hour. Took me no issues in order to reach that, and all I have is the filter. Even while it's fully stock, I had no problems ever hitting that. And that is one of the most unique things about this vehicle. Because its top speed is so low, I don't feel like getting its upgraded mobility things. So the modifications for mobility, I really don't feel that they matter all too much on this vehicle. Like, they'll help, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that they'll help to the extent that they will with a lot of other vehicles. The T10M, for example, that helps a lot. You know, you'd think that mobility upgrades on a heavy tank would actually help quite a bit. Not with this vehicle. Again, the main thing that we have here is just that this vehicle... Oh, very nice. Ooh, helicopter shot down. I like that. The main thing that we have with this, again, the T41 APC-BC is the best upgrade on this. And the thing is, aside from post-pen damage, again, it's not all that much better than what we see... Ooh. Farts. It's not all that much better in terms of just general armor pen compared to the T43, the solid shot that comes stock. So, yeah, I mean, like, it's good, but this vehicle, it dominates in down tiers, as you kind of just saw with that nuke game, and it really doesn't matter how well I do here. It's just, I'm just kind of trying to tell you guys how this vehicle is with the gameplay at hand. Again, I record all my gameplay live. But that said, this vehicle, absolutely incredible, yes, in a down tier, but in an up tier, you face things like Heat FS, ATGMs, APDS even, APF SDS, you face vehicles with stabilizers, you face all these things, composite armors even, like early composites, and so it becomes a huge problem, whereas in a down tier, most people are looking for that weak spot and they just instinctively shoot there, and guess what? Because most people don't use the T32E1, not a problem. Can I hit this guy? Ooh, I can. It's not a problem because everyone's assuming that that weak spot is still there when it isn't. And it's just wonderful because, as you saw, I only had like 8 kills and a base cap, and I was able to get that nuke. By the time I had, like, I think it was 2 kills in that match. By the time I had 2 kills, I'm pretty sure that I had over 2,000. It was like 2 kills and 2 assists and a base cap. I had over 2,000 points because of how many times I was shot in the front of the vehicle without success from the enemy. And so when that happens, this vehicle is absolutely amazing. Again, in a down tier, incredible. I love it. But it takes a down tier. Oh my goodness, that was ugly, and that's a toodle. I'm not going to be able to shoot through him. Now, that raises actually another point here. Because this doesn't have any sort of advanced ammunition, you know, this only has APC-BC, APCR at best with 330 millimeters of armor pen. It doesn't have Heat FS, it doesn't have APF SDS, APDS, none of that. So going through heavy tanks is going to be a real problem, especially from the front. And so that's another reason why this is amazing. And that's also, you know, this is a 90 millimeter cannon with a 16 second reload rather, which is just absurd. Absolutely absurd. And so you find yourself relying on your 50 cal, for example. You find yourself just going for these weaker targets in down tiers because they're actually killable for you. Whereas, again, in an up tier, you lack the ammunition to be successful. You know, and so you have a vehicle like the M103, for example. Very nice. You have yourself a vehicle like the M103 where it has a similar reload. It's about 2 seconds, I think, worse than this. Maybe? Maybe? It's tough to say. But it's got heat FS. It's got a smoke shell. This has no smokes, whether in shell form or in smoke grenade form. And it also has a much more powerful solid shot AP shell. And so, even though it lacks the APCR, which I'm sure a lot of people, or not APCR, but rather APCBC, or APHEBC, that a lot of people would like, guess what? It still has heat FS, and that is way more up-tierable. The M103, again, currently a 7.7 BR heavy tank, way more up-tierable than this vehicle. So I'm going to do something really stupid because I got pretty much everything I wanted to say out of this match. But pretty much, as it stands in a down tier, like in a complete down tier, and I'm holding one spot, there's very few vehicles, if any, that I would rather be in compared to this vehicle. However, in a down tier, there's very few vehicles, again, if any, that I would rather not, that I would not rather be in. Basically, like, I would rather be in almost any other vehicle than this in an up tier, without question. However, in a down tier, I would almost rather be in this vehicle compared to anything else. It's a really weird, like, dichotomy, but it's just so much has to do with the fact that it has such a mediocre cannon for an up tier. Again, you're looking at 224 millimeters of armor pen for what is effectively its best shell, right? Like, you could say, oh, well, the APCR is more. Yeah, but again, those are so weird when it comes to hitting highly angled or highly, like, thick targets that aren't completely flat, that they're almost kind of like a very special use, a niche case. And so when you're using this pretty much all the time outside of a few shots, maybe every now and again, it definitely is a big problem. You know, it definitely is a big problem, especially, again, when combined with the absolutely terrible reload on this for a 90mm cannon. You know, 120mm cannons have better or similar reloads compared to this. And that, to me, is pretty much unacceptable. So, great vehicle from the front in a down tier, terrible vehicle in an up tier, I guess might be the way to say it. But we still have enemies, and as you can see, though, I mean, I'm having very few, if any, issues doing whatever I want to these people. That sounds really dark. And this guy has no idea what's going on around him. Wow. And I don't know how I didn't just get that assist. So let's just keep on moving on. I guess I'm still alive. I'm having a really good match. This match as well. Somehow in an up tier, but I'm facing mostly lightly armored vehicles, distracted vehicles, or unarmored vehicles, which is, you know, it seems like where I'm getting the fair share of my kills, which is why it's easy. We have ourselves another kill. 7 kills here. Again, very little resistance, and the only resistance I've had was in the form of a rocket, I think, hitting me. Let's see how this deals with frontal hits. Actually, quite well. So as I said, let's get into the fully spaded match. I'm genuinely surprised I did this well pretty much 2 consecutive matches when this vehicle is otherwise just, I don't know. It's really tough to place. One of the toughest decisions I've had on a vehicle probably ever. So here we are, fully spaded with the T32E1, and I'll just tell you guys this, right off the bat. This vehicle is an anomaly. In an up tier, it sucks. I mean, it's one of the worst vehicles in game for an up tier. In a down tier, it's absolutely amazing. And there's like 2 or 3 reasons for that. One, in a down tier, it's amazing because of its armor, right? Its armor is ridiculous. Unless, like, you fight something that just randomly has heat FS, not many vehicles are going to go through the front end of this thing. That's just how it is. In an up tier, everyone's going to go through the front end of this thing because, well, that's just how it is. Everyone has Heat FS, APF SDS, special ammo, maybe like they've got more powerful ammo. I'm not entirely sure. Like, there's any number of things, right? Like, just like that. He just hit the front end of this thing, did absolutely jack diddly squat. Nothing to me. From close range, no less, and at a very favorable angle for him. In an up tier, everyone goes right through you. Now, another reason why this thing is so poor in a down tier is because of its cannon. Its cannon is decent-ish. I mean, it's a little bit mediocre in a down tier. However, in an up tier, okay, I'm going to shoot this guy in the back here. In an up tier, it's absolutely trash. So this thing has 224 millimeters of armor pen with its best shell. With its absolutely best shell. Which means, okay, I'm going to shoot this guy right here. The only reason why I'm getting these kills is because they're pretty much letting me. But what all this means is that I'm probably going to die here, actually, to that IS-4. I cannot go through the front of that thing, so I'm going to want to take out his cannon if I can help it. Okay, not going to work. So this cannon, 224 millimeters of armor pen on a 7.7 BR vehicle. That's awful. I mean, just seriously, that's absolutely terrible. It's trash, not good. Let's see if I can hit him from the side here. Can't do anything. It's not good. And so what you end up having happen is that instances like that, even in similar BR vehicles, you're not going to be able to have an easy shot against them. A vehicle like, for example, the Tiger II has more armor pen, a greater muzzle velocity, which means that it's easier to snipe with it, and also similar enough post-pen damage. So it's got very similar explosive filler equivalent, right? All of those things combined where it's like a 6.7 BR Tiger II has an equally, if not more, actually a more effective cannon than this has, which is just shocking to me. Now, I'm not saying that they're the same vehicle because they're not. This vehicle has better armor in my opinion. I just saw a Tiger II right there. And he just took out the cannon. Now, that's one of the big issues with this vehicle, is that while it is a very, very powerful vehicle, its cannon is also absolutely gigantic and is ridiculously easy to destroy. That's probably the most commonly destroyed thing that I have with this vehicle. But also the mobility. 35 kilometer per hour top speed, it doesn't matter one bit how good, like, the power to weight ratio is. So, like, the mobility additions on this thing really don't matter at all. I feel like I'm about to be hit by somebody behind me. But, like, outside of maybe one single mobility upgrade, it really doesn't matter. Can I hit that crew? Nah, I was going to try to hit the, whatchamacallit there. We do have a Tiger here, so that's interesting. Okay, I should be able to go right through the front of that turret, hopefully. Yes, I can. Okay. So, this is a complete down tier, mind you. But because the top speed on this thing is so low, you're not going to be able to get, like, the extra power to weight ratio. Yeah, it matters going up hills, but when you're just going straight, it really doesn't matter at all. I mean, I really don't notice it. And so that makes it so that the T41 shot, even though it's a pretty decent upgrade, not incredible, that is by far and away the most important upgrade you can get on this vehicle. Nothing else really matters. This doesn't have a laser rangefinder, doesn't have a rangefinder, doesn't have additional armor packages. The mobility upgrades, yeah, sure, the engine upgrade, I guess it makes a small difference in that you can accelerate a little bit better uphill or off-road, but you're going to hit that top speed anyways, with ease. So it doesn't really matter all too much. And so you're now left with this vehicle that at 7.7 BR, again, dominates in a down tier, but sucks in an up tier. Whereas you have a very similar BR vehicle in the M103 that can actually play in an up tier, and even though statistically speaking it looks like it doesn't have any better armor than this, it actually has better effective armor from the front. Substantially better. Go test it for yourself in the armor analysis. It does. And so that has Heat FS, it's got smoke shell, this has no smokes. This vehicle is just overall substantially worse than, you know what? Oh, you know what? Maybe I can go shoot the heck out of him like this. I don't know. This vehicle is just worse. Honestly, unless we get substantial decompression, I don't know how that didn't kill me. Honestly, unless we get substantial decompression, I wouldn't even say putting this down a VR because it really wouldn't make any sense to bring it down to 7.3 VR. But if we can get some decompression, this thing might actually be really good. At 7.7 VR, it's a really tough sell, and I would say actually probably avoid this thing. You'd be better off just getting the M103 because again, it has heat FS, it's got a much better solid shot. So this has 301 millimeters of armor pen, whereas the solid shot on this has 211. The APCBC has 224, and the APCR, which has substantially worse post-pen damage than even a regular solid shot, only has 336. And it's a much smaller gun in the first place, so you have to add that into it, and the post-pen damage on the M103 is substantially better. It's got similar enough reload rates, and it's got actually pretty damn similar power-to-weight ratios. I would just avoid the T32E1 until decompression happens. This is probably the first vehicle where I'm saying that, but if you get into a down tier, like I said, like you saw, it'll dominate. Otherwise, not so much. This thing has a rough go of it in up tiers that are very, very common because, again, you're going to be facing vehicles with heat FS that just take away your greatest strength, which is your armor. You're going to be facing vehicles with stabilizers that you don't have, better power to weight ratios, better top speeds, APF SDS on occasion, laser rangefinders, which makes it so that they can engage you at a much longer distance than you could ever hope to engage, because this vehicle just isn't all that good at range. They have a much faster reload rate than you, oftentimes half as slow as yours. So it just becomes a big issue with this vehicle. So do I say to get it? Like I said, no, I would avoid it until there's substantial decompression, or if Gaijin sends this thing a miracle, until it gets a down tier. So that being said, thanks so much for watching. If you don't mind, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing. But either way, thanks again. I'll see you all on the other side. Thanks for sticking with me through this rant on this vehicle. This is, again, probably the toughest one for me to have to judge, but I'd avoid it. Take care, everyone.